Hello, and welcome to this edition of Ritter's Rant. The term we're going to explore today is super duper. Not super duper in, the kind of way you heard it applied in your childhood. Hey, that's super duper. It's a super duper day. Let's go out and have a super duper good time. No, we're talking about super duper as spoken by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He thinks that we have some super duper missiles. One he actually calls the super duper. Um, it apparently flies super duper fast and has super duper accuracy and is just super duper. Um, I mean, this kind of childish language, it's not a one of occasion. We see the president just yesterday talking to the press, bragging that soon America is going to have more missiles than anybody else in the world. More missiles. And we're talking about the speedy ones. We're talking about the slower ones. We're talking about the accurate ones and the less accurate ones. But either way, America is going to be producing more missiles than anyone. It's super duper, and it's a lie. It's wrong. First of all, let's just ask ourselves, why would the president commit to such a flawed statement? He is, after all, the president of the United States, the most powerful position in the world. Um, he doesn't need to be exaggerating. He can tell the truth about America's military capabilities. They are considerable. If you need to brag, brag accurately. But why would he talk about accuracy and numbers, etc.? Well, it's because he's insecure. That's often the real state of the ego-driven narcissist. And Donald Trump is an egomaniac, a narcissist. A textbook narcissist. He just cares about himself and his image. Even when he talks about the United States, it's not a reflection of the United States. It's a reflection of him, the greatest man ever. Everything he does is the greatest ever. Every deal is the greatest ever, or super duper. But last month, Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, and on several occasions stated straight out that Russia's defense industry produces more in 4 months than all of NATO combined produces in a year. Um, that means that Russia's producing 3 times more than all of NATO, and that includes the United States. Super duper. Um, Clearly, this doesn't sit well with this president. And so he feels the need now to come out and go on record that, no, America is producing more than anybody and it's better. But is it? And are we? First of all, let's talk about the super duper. What is the super duper? Well, the super duper is Trump's name for what's known as the Air Launched Rapid Response Weapon. It's a weapon system that's, I think, been developed by Boeing. Its last test was in March of last year. And then the program was canceled because it just doesn't work. It's too expensive. It doesn't work. But this president can't stand to be seen as falling behind the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Iranians when it comes to hypersonics. And so he has ordered that this super duper weapon be, brought back to life. And so now the Air Force is once again testing its air launched rapid response weapon. But it's not operational. It's not even close to being operational. It's been a failed theoretical weapon for such a long time, but it's super duper. And this is what the president's talking about. You see what's happening here? He's taking something that literally doesn't exist, and he's acting as if not only does it exist, but it's the best. It works. And it's ready to be deployed in more numbers than anything else out there. Uh, Numbers. I'm sure the president was briefed on a couple things which prompted this. One, um, you know, there are the ATACMS missiles. These are battlefield missiles. The Army, uh, missile that's been provided to Ukraine, etc. And recently, the Lockheed Martin, the company produces them, announced that they're producing about 500 of these a year. 500. That's a decent number. None of these go to the United States arsenal, though. All of them are for foreign military sales. And so he surely can't be talking about the ATACMS when he talks about American stockpiles of ammunition. We also have something called the precision munition, and this is the replacement of the ATACMS. And right now, it's starting to go into initial production. Lockheed Martin again producing it can produce between 230 to 290 a year. But Lockheed Martin recently announced that they're ready to ramp that up to 400 a year. 400 of these newer precision missile systems. Um, these are big numbers. These are impressive numbers, but isn't more than anybody else in the world. Let's take Russia, for example, the Iskander missile. Russia right now is producing around 60 to 70 Iskanders a month. That means that Russia is producing between 700 and 800 some odd Iskanders a year. That's a hell of a lot more than 500 and 400. And that's just the Iskander. What about the Kinzhal? Russia produces the air launched hypersonic missile, the air launched weapon that the United States doesn't have, the Super Duper. This is Russia's Super Duper, but it works. It's there. It's being produced. And it's being produced in numbers of about 10 to 15 a month, which means, roughly 120 to 100, 150 a year. Now, that's not the same as we have with the ATACMS and all that, but again, those are incomparable systems. The Kinzhal is what the Super Duper should be, and we're not producing any Super Dupers, and the Russians are producing a whole bunch of Kinzhals. And what about the Dark Eagle? The Dark Eagle is America's intermediate range system. It's supposed to be deployed about a year and a half ago, but it can't because it doesn't work, like almost every American system. But now the Dark Eagle is ready to enter into its initial operational phase. Hopefully, if you're an American, it'll be deployed in Europe sometime by the end of this current fiscal year. That'll be one battery, a couple dozen missiles. They have another one scheduled to come online in 2026. What does Russia have? Well, Russia has deployed a system. It's called the Oreshnik. And the Oreshnik is now in serial production out of the Vodkins machine building plant in Udmurtia. The Russians haven't produced the production figures for the Oreshnik, and I would imagine that it's probably a classified number. But if you just base it upon, what is known of past production cycles, for instance, affiliated with the SS-20 missile, etc., the production lines that are in Vodkins, the current production lines, could probably sustain a production rate of around 60 to 80 missiles a year, maybe more. And there's talk about Vodkins building a second production line because there's a high demand on the systems coming out of Vodkins, which means now Oreshniks could be produced in numbers closer to 200 a year. That's 200 intermediate range missiles, each one possessing 6 independently targetable warheads, each one of those possessing 6, powerful cluster munitions. And the United States has yet to deploy a Dark Eagle. So the fact is, Russia outproduces the United States in missiles. Russia has a qualitative and quantitative advantage over the United States. And we haven't even begun to talk about China and its ballistic missile production capabilities, which swamp that of the United States. What about North Korea and its ballistic missile production capability? What about Iran and its proven ballistic missile production capability? The fact of the matter is, the United States isn't the world's leader in ballistic missile production. It's not even in second place. It's probably not in third place or fourth place. The United States could be in fifth place. That's not good enough for this president. It'd be one thing if the president would be honest and say, I don't like being in fifth place. That we need to ramp up our production capabilities. I've gone to Congress and asked for more money. I've asked the Pentagon to streamline production capacity. We need to get these numbers up. That would be an honest statement. He could say that the Super Duper isn't ready yet. We've been testing it. It's been failed. Blame the past administration. Claim that your administration is seeking to overcome all of the inadequacies to produce a very good missile that can be deployed to our armed forces that works. That would be honest. But this president is incapable of being honest when his ego's on the line. Bottom line is, it either has to be super duper or nothing at all. Well, that's my rant. Next time an idea crosses my mind, I'll let you know about it. Thanks for listening.